At a number 10 spot, we have the Kifune Shrine. This place is very well known as a beautiful sightseeing spot in Kyoto, Japan, but for many locals, the dark history makes them have a different perspective of the place. Kifune Shrine is known as the birthplace of a terrifying ritual known as the Ishunokoku Mari, which refers to placing a curse on someone by placing a nail through a straw effigy, which is sort of like a voodoo doll. Then you nail it onto a tree around the hours of 1 to 3 a.m. We did a 3 a.m. video, so you already know how cursed that time is. If anyone is caught watching this ritual, the person conducting the ritual must eliminate that person, or else the curse will reflect back onto them. The performer usually wears a white kimono, sandals, and places 3 burning candles on top of their head. If you visit the shrine to this day, you will find many trees with holes on it, presumably from the nails of those attempting this scary ritual. At our number 9 spot, with the Awashima Shrine. There is no doubt Japan is a very beautiful place, meaning that most of the shrines I mentioned on this list are very visitable, so I had to mention Awashima Shrine to change your mind on that. This shrine contains over 20,000 dolls who are believed to be possessed from its past owners. The dolls will be left at the shrine as an offering from women to pray for fertility and for safe birth. Come on, look at this place. Tell me you would go here willingly. According to legend, Empress Zingu was journeying home from a war overseas. As she was on her way back home, a huge storm took over the seas and broke the boat partially. This caused the Empress to pray to the gods, and apparently they brought her back safely to Tomagashina. Here she would build the Awashima Shrine to thank the gods for their service. People believe that these dolls over time would develop souls, so the reason why many donate it is to get rid of the curse trapped inside of these dolls that caused many of the problems and issues within their own life. At number 8 spot, we have the Dashogun Shrine. This shrine was originally built by Emperor Kanmu in 794. It was originally built to break the evil coming from all sorts of directions, whether this be from physical enemies or spiritual beings. This became a place where people would go to pray for protection. Specifically, many would call for the god of the stars, Dashogun. Enshrined at the place are many Japanese figures fighting a beast named the Nu. A Nu is a Japanese yokai described as having the head of a monkey, the body of a raccoon dog, legs of a tiger, and a snake for a tail. Pretty terrifying, right? Because these creatures can also transform into a black cloud and fly all over the place. Back in the early years of its construction, it said that the current emperor sent out these powerful warriors to kill it and make the place peaceful at last. Except many believe the Nu is still out there near the shrine, with reports of seeing the creature in the forest surrounding the area. At our number 7 spot, with the Menenji Temple. Menenji Temple is located in Iwamizawa, Japan, and it was originally built in dedication to the Jodo sect of Buddhism. Despite its spiritual beginnings, the temple is now known for the cursed doll that lives within it. The story starts in 1918 Japan. Older brother Eikichi Suzuki bought a doll for his 2-year-old sister Okiku. The doll had a black bob cut and a traditional kimono on it. His sister loved the doll so much that she would even name it after her own name. These two would become so attached together like no other. But in the following year, Okiku became gravely ill and ended up passing away. To commemorate her family put her favorite doll on her memorial shrine. Everything seemed fine until after a few days they would begin to notice something very strange. The doll's hair seemed to be actively growing, and every time it would be cut, it would continue to keep growing. Eventually her family would move away but chose to keep the doll in the same place, thinking that Okiku would have wanted that. Now it resides in the Menenji Temple, where it's said that monks will cut the doll's hair regularly as it keeps on growing. At number 6 spot, we have the Sogenji Shrine. The Sogenji Shrine, also known as a Kappadera, is a Zen Buddhist temple in Tokyo. It got its name from a Japanese mythological entity known as the Kappa. And no, I don't mean that trashy clothing brand. I'm talking about these guys. Kappas are these human-like creatures, small in stature, with webbed hands and feet. It has a turtle shell on its back, and a beak and a saucer on their head, always seem to be filled with water. These creatures would just be known for their troublemaking. They would play games with both animals and humans, and in some cases, the Kappa would impregnate women and drown people in the rivers where they resided. Apparently, when the place was prone to flooding, the people of the area asked for the Kappa for existence, and now many claim that the Kappas are still nearby, claiming the place as their own. There are several statues of the Kappa littered around the shrine, but who knows if one of them turns out to be real. At the hump of our list, we have the Zenkoji Temple. The Zenkoji Temple is a Buddhist temple located in the city of Nagano, Japan. The main temple of Zenkoshi has a dark room created for spiritual purposes and acts like a shrine in a way. This dark room follows a pitch black tunnel underneath the temple that monks had supposedly hid the quote key to paradise. In order to do this, you need to hone your 5 senses and have complete focus while trying to navigate yourself through this area. This area is supposed to represent the journey between death and rebirth. It's very simple to understand how this represents the pursuit of enlightenment, which is only possible once you let go of your physical limitations and your concerns. People think that if you find the key, they will be saved, while others believe that if you fail, you will have a series of bad luck and unfortunate mishappenings. Regardless if you succeed or not, this room is bound to have a terrifying experience experience regardless. At number 4 spot, we have Mount Osor. This is one of Japan's most sacred sites, and for good reason. It's claimed by many to be one of the entrances to hell. First, the temple lies on top of a volcanic plain, and as you roam the area, you will constantly pick up a scent of sulfur, which is already eerie because this is the smell of ghosts and demons, supposedly. But volcanic reasons also make sense. According to Buddhist monks, they say that this place resembles the descriptions of hell and also paradise, so this is why many believe this is a spirit hub. Also around the area are these little Jizo statues, which were there to guide people who were lost, especially for children to take and keep them for safety. People who have lost their children bring pebbles to the site as an offering for their kids to go easily through the afterlife. Except many of these pebbles are left broken, and many have placed a blame on evil demons in the area. There's also a festival at the shrine where blind women called Itaku bring messages from the afterlife back to the living. So best believe there are quite a few spirits here waiting to be communicated with. At number 3 spot, we have the Owa Nanari Tamaya Shrine. This shrine in Tokyo has one of the most famous ghost stories in all of Japan associated with it. The story goes that Owa was a very pure and faithful woman, married to a terrible man named Tamaya Lemon. This man killed her in order to marry a richer woman. While the accounts on how he killed her vary, this all include poisoning her with terrible consequences to her looks. Obviously, she wouldn't be keen on this whole new marriage thing, and she proceeded to ruin the marriage, making him kill his new wife and her family by making them look like her dead self, and finally killed him too. The shrine was built to represent Owa's angry spirit and is still rests south of the station in Tokyo. At our number 2 spot, we're the Kaikoji Temple. This place has nothing really scary about it except the fact that it has mummified bodies on display. Okay, maybe it is a bit scary. These mummified figures are known as a Sokushin Butsu, also known as the living Buddha or Buddha mummies. These are in fact real people, and they are the bodies of priests who belong to the Shingon sect of Japanese Buddhism. All the mummies we see here are priests who made the drastic decision in self-mummification. Just something about a body that is fully intact for hundreds of years that makes it so creepy, right? The process for the mummification would actually be pretty intense. For the first 1,000 days, they would do extreme fasting and exercising. Then on the next 1,000 days, they would reduce their diets to a bare minimum. The last 1,000 days would consist of entombment. Basically, they would bury themselves alive, essentially while in a deep state of meditation, in order to reach enlightenment. At number 1 spot, we have the Taki Shrine. This shrine is consumed in moss but looks very beautiful, but the story behind it completely ruins it. This shrine was established in the Teryaku era of Japan, which was around 900 AD. Legend goes that a man was hunting for yokai and fighting against sorcery in the region. When he was roaming the area, it would slowly get consumed by a dark black cloud. Unable to move further, the man prayed to the gods and fired an arrow up into the clouds. When the arrow came back down, the cloud drifted away, and the spot where the arrow hit is a supposed location of the Taki Shrine. Every now and then, the mountain will be filled with fog and mist, which only adds to the amazing atmosphere of the nature in the area, but it also has a little bit of creepiness in it. And it's also a time when most of the region's spirits seem to be resting. Many believe that many yokai are resting by the shrine, so it's best to visit this area when there's still light outside, because many people have gone missing when night hits.
Starting off this countdown at number 10, Mahandipur Balaji Temple. This is perhaps the only temple in the country where live exorcisms are performed on people to free their body of the spirit controlling their actions. The spooky ambiance of this temple in Rajasthan makes it one creepy place of worship to visit and is not for the faint-hearted. The temple is dedicated to Hanuman, and he is believed to be a protector who can ward off evil spirits. A visit here will surely spook you out from everything that goes on inside it. You will find people who are believed to be possessed chained in a chamber. Some are being beaten up by a pundit to free the evil spirit, or there are even people who can pour boiling water on themselves without feeling a thing. There are certain rules visitors need to follow when they come here. They cannot touch anyone and have to offer black balls into the fire. They also cannot take back any gifts or look back once they leave the premises. Here's also a video of a supposed exorcism taking place at the temple, but I want to let you know first that I personally found it disturbing, so be warned.
जय माता दी बोलो जयकारे सबकी बारे न्यारे जय माता दी जय माता दी जय माता दी जय माता दी
Now at number 9, Hazrat Syed Ali Miradatar Dargah. This temple is said to be where people chain themselves to the walls here to get rid of evil spirits. Located in a fort-like structure in Unava village, this Dargah has been visited by women who are mentally affected, or possessed according to some people, for ages. People come here to drive evil spirits away, and there's consequently a lot of strange things that go on at the place. Local people warn others to not spend much time in that specific room where affected people are being helped by a religious master to remove evil spirits from the body, as the furious spirit might try to possess you while leaving that body. People from all religions, caste, and creed are welcome, however I don't know if you want to visit. Now at number 8, Shri Kshetra Gondapur, Dattatreya Temple. This temple is in the Gulbarga district of Karnataka state in India. It is around 45 kilometers from the district headquarters of Gulbarga. Karnataka state road transportation buses are there from Gulbarga to Gangapur for every 1 or 1.5 hours. This temple is in Gangapur and is one of the most bizarre, some say. At Dattatreya Temple, people are believed to be possessed, gathering inside on new moon and full moon days. They then hurl abuses at the gods. This is believed to free their body of the evil spirit in them. But not just this, people also climb on the walls and rampants of the temple and scream from there. Now coming in at number 7, Nizamuddin Dargah. It's said that no wonder if Delhi is serving as the capital, because it is not only the politics, glorious history, majestic monuments, and Delhi tourism for which the place is famous. When it comes to devotion and beliefs, you can see there is a place named Nizamuddin Dargah which has its own significance. It is not only the prominent Muslim shrines, but is also a place where one can rid away the evil spirits. The Dargah is visited by thousands of devotees every week during the year. People from all religious beliefs visit this place to feel the true Sufi tradition. You can hear the shrieks and screams from a deserted room on the premises. It is said that a priest performs an exorcism in this one room. When you break away from the crowded and tourist-infested part of Dargah, you may be able to find this freaky room here dedicated to the ridding of evil spirits. Now at number 6, Chandi Devi Temple. Chandi Devi is believed to be a violent form of the goddess, and this temple is said to be housing her. People who come to this temple during Navratri are believed to be possessed by this form of the Devi, as that time the spirit is most powerful. On other days, it's said that people who are possessed come here to rid of the evil spirit. However, it is unclear whether it works to get rid of the spirit or not. This is definitely a place I would not want to step foot into, even if I went on a trip to India.
Yeah, we are going up to see Chandi Mandir. Hopefully, it's better than what we in the temple before. Mansa Devi temple.
What is Chandi Mandir?
It's I don't know, it's a goddess of sacrifice or something. That would I understand from the name Chandi Mandir. It's killer of the evil.
Halfway at number 5, Sant Sabir Shah Dargah. This one is quite spine-chilling, so I suggest you get ready for it. The theories of this temple is that people say men chain themselves to the walls in order to cure themselves. Of what, you may ask? Well, it's not exactly said, but it suggests that it's to rid themselves of evil spirits possessing their bodies. Now what I want to know is why there are so many temples dedicated to rid spirits from people's bodies. Like, is this a common thing that happens on the daily in India? Let me know. This other destination is for those looking for a cure to demonic possession. This is a place considered by many to be the most far out. It is a scary, unnerving place filled to the brim with people thought to be in control of a deviant spirit. Here you'll see women offering prayers in a trance-like otherworldly state, while young men in chains attached to the wall wait for their own cures. Now at number 4, Harsu Brahm Temple. The story of this temple in Bihar is that it was built for a Baharian man who wanted to get worshipped by the people. It's said that his soul still roams here, and people come here to pray to him to get rid of the spirit that is possessing their body. The temple is pretty discreet, and you'll have to ask locals to take you there in order to find it. But that's even if you want to go there, which I personally wouldn't, but that's just me. But if you do go, it's recommended to ask for stories of people getting possessed and cured at this temple. Now at number 3, Kadungular Bhagadathi Temple. The earthly abode of goddess Bhadrakali, a gentler reincarnation of goddess Kali, the Kadungular Bhagadathi Temple witnesses a bizarre 7-day festival celebrated annually, the Bharani Festival. Men and women wearing red clothes are carrying swords, swarm this Indian temple, running around in a trance-like state. They hit their head with the sword, blood pours freely, and they enter the temple hurling choice abuses and singing lewd songs about the devil. Offerings are not made in the general fashion. Instead, they are thrown at the statue of the goddess, and the temple rafters are hit repeatedly with sticks. The temple is shut down for 7 days after the festival, admittedly to clean the bloodstains. Now at number 2, Kamakya Devi Temple. Preached atop the Nalchal Hill in Guwahati, Assam resides the Ma Kamakya Devi Temple, one of the most famous temples in India. The temple does not have a sculpture to worship, however, what it does have is the Yoni, the wife of Lord Shiva, covered with a red silk sari. Every year during moon sun, the goddess menstruates, and the temple is closed down for 3 days. It is also when the Tantric Fertility Festival, or Ambubachi Mela, is celebrated here, till the 4th day when the temple reopens. It is also said that the underground spring that flows through the sanctum of the temple turns red on these 3 days. Devotees are offered a piece of red cloth used to cover the stone yoni during the days of menstruation as a prasad. Now coming in number 1, Devji Maharaj Mandir. You know, there's something spooky about a temple when it hosts a Bhoot Mela every year. Yes, Devji Maharaj is famous, or should I say infamous, for this ghost fair it conducts annually. This fair is on a full moon night, and people who are believed to be possessed come to the temple and get themselves rid of these spirits. You can see Babas hitting people with brooms to get the spirit off them. Some even claim to see spirits around or feel there is something strange in the temple. The spookiest bit is when people try to rid themselves of the spirit by lighting kampor on their palms, which is a powder that originally came from the bark and wood of the kampar tree and is extremely flammable.
You know, there is something spooky about a temple when it hosts a Booth Mela every year. You can see Babas hitting people with brooms to get the spirit of them. Some even claim to see spirits around or feel there is something strange in the temple.
Starting off this countdown at number 10, Isa Grand Shrine. Japan is globally popular for its shrine culture and has approximately 80,000 shrines. The most important among all of them is Isa Grand Shrine. It is one of the most expensive temples in Japan due to its architectural magnificence. To maintain the Shinto traditions dating back to the 8th century, this temple is rebuilt every 20 years, and that comes with $1 million price tag. However, you'd think spending that much money on something, you'd want people to see it and enjoy it, but unless you are a member of the royal family, you're forbidden to enter the hollowed halls of this ancient Japanese representation. Number 9, the forest. The Okigahara Forest, also known as the Sea of Trees, sits right along the edge of Mount Fuji, roughly a 2-hour drive west of Tokyo. At the entrance of the forest, you're greeted by a sign that reminds visitors that life is a precious gift from their parents. Okigahara's dark reputation has been around for decades. Legend has it that in the olden times when food was in short supply and the situation grew desperate, a family might take a dependent elderly relative, typically a woman, to a remote location and leave her to pass away. At first, the ghost visitors had claimed they saw in Okigahara were presumed to be the vengeful spirits of the old who had been abandoned to starvation, and the mercy of the elements. But that all began to change in the 1960s. More than 100 people who were not from the area surrounding Okigahara took their own lives there between 2013 and 2015. Countrywide, people who took their own lives there totaled roughly 24,000. These numbers do not include attempts people made. It is not recommended that you visit this place, because even if you're just going to see it and enjoy the scenery, you may get sucked in and you may take your own life yourself. Number 8, Inunaki Tunnel. The old Inunaki Tunnel is a spot of a horrific incident deep within the mountains of Fukuoka. In December of 1988, the charred remains of a man were found within this mountain tunnel. The perpetrators of this gruesome act are reported to be a group of teenage boys. The area also has a history that goes back over 1,000 years as a training grounds for Budapest practitioners, who claimed the area to be a spiritual hotspot of lost souls. These claims were later backed up by a modern spiritualist who visited the mountain area in the aim of recording a television special, but promptly refused to go further due to the foreboding spiritual atmosphere. The tunnel itself has been sealed off with concrete blocks, forbidding entry, but an opening in the top of the tunnel still allows entry for anyone foolish enough to climb over. The tunnel is no longer in use and far off the beaten path, meaning no assistance would be able to reach you in an emergency situation, so it is highly discouraged that you try visiting. Number 7, Takauka Unuma. This is certainly not a place to be visited now, but not for the reason you might expect. The story begins with Japan's rising bubble economy in the 1970s, in a rural northern part of Fukushima Prefecture, but the tale ended prematurely in 1986 and failed dreams never to be truly realized. Allegedly, after a few passings by people falling from the roller coasters, the park was shut down and multiple attempts to reopen the park all failed. Rather than demolish this area, it was just left to rust and fade out of the public consciousness. The decaying and dangerous structures were like a beacon calling out urban explorers who seemed to find the location popular. However, since 2018, the area has been mostly outfitted with solar panels, and all remains of the park attractions have disappeared. The legend still lives on as pictures and stories about the park continue to surface on the internet from time to time. But that is the first and last stop for anyone looking to test their courage in the park these days. Now at number 6, Iwo Jima Island. One of the Bonin Islands in the Pacific Ocean far south of the Japanese mainland, this island has forever been ingrained in the cultural consciousness of a historical battlefield in World War II. However, it is also home to Mount Suribachi, a 161-meter high volcano that is listed as the most dangerous active volcano in the world, according to the University of Manchester. It is said that there is a chance of this volcano erupting sometime in the next 100 years, which would in turn lead to 25-meter-high tsunami waves hitting the coast of both China and Japan, leading to a potential death toll in the millions. The ghost stories of it related to the 40-day battle waged on the island, in which many thousands of soldiers on both the US and Japanese side lost their lives. It currently holds a base for the Japanese Self-Defense Forces, and those stationed on the island have reportedly encountered the spirits of the soldiers who lost their lives there many years ago. Whether you would like to or not, it is nearly impossible to visit the island, as it is restricted to military personnel only. Halfway at number 5, tattoos. Tattoos in Japan are not often accepted. Yes, as they are legal, you are technically allowed to have them, but if you go into some places, you will be frowned upon or possibly even kicked out if your tattoos are showing. In 1872, tattoos of all kind were prohibited to help give an appearance of civilization and sophistication throughout the country. This resulted in an increase in arrests and tattoo artists moving their shops underground. It wasn't until 1948 that tattooing became legal again. However, the stigma around the art has remained. In 2015, a Japanese tattoo artist was arrested for violating the Medical Practitioners Act. Police visited his tattoo parlor in relation to a criminal case against a pharmacy where the person was listed as a client. Becoming a medical doctor costs a lot of time and money, said the person. Locals and tourists with tattoos showing are in fact banned from entering places like bathing houses, beaches, gyms, hot springs, and pools. So safe to say, cover your tattoos in Japan or you can say goodbye to a fun beach day and working out. Number 4, Nakagasuku Hotel. The ruins of this hotel is among the favorite terrifying attractions in Japan. The hotel was proposed as a luxury resort and just a little away from the castle of the same name. The hotel construction was opposed by a monk who said it would disturb the holy site and graves in the area. But capitalist greed took over and the owner started building it. After several mishaps and workers' deaths, the construction was later stopped. In a bid to restart it, the owner promised to stay overnight at the hotel to prove it was safe, but instead he returned talking crazy in the morning and disappeared off the face of the earth. Even today, people can see lights and feel cold presence in the empty corridors of the hotel. Now at number 3, Mount Osari. This is one of Japan's most sacred sites. Many people are denied entry into this place, and it's for a good reason, because it's claimed by many people to be the entrances of hell. First, the temple lies on top of a volcanic plain, and as you roam the area, you will constantly pick up the scent of sulfur, which is already eerie because this is a smell of ghosts and devils, supposedly. But volcanic reasons also make sense. According to the Buddhist monks, they say this place resembles the descriptions of hell and also paradise, so this is why they believe this is the spirit hub. Around the area, there are these little Jizo statues, which are used to guide people who were lost, especially for children to take and keep them for safety. Parents who have lost their children bring pebbles to the site as an offering for their kids to easily go through the afterlife. Except many of the pebbles are left broken, and many people blamed it on evil demons in the area. They even have a festival at the shrine where blind women call a taco brings messages from the afterlife back to the living. So best believe there are quite a few spirits here waiting to be communicated with. Number 2, Hashima Island. Hashima Island in Japan is completely deserted now, but it was once the most densely populated regions on the planet, a hub for undersea coal mining. It was used in that capacity for almost a century, from 1887 until 1974. Around that time, petroleum started to take over and the coal capital of Japan was abandoned. The locals now know it as Gukujima or Battleship Island for its resemblance to such. Its spooky ruins are a trip for only the bravest to take. Now coming in at number 1, Gas Mask Island. South of Tokyo, you'll find Japan's Uzu Islands. On account of the active volcano and huge quantities of sulfur, it continues to emit between frequent eruptions. In the year 2000, according to Atlas Obscura, a series of eruptions caused the island to be evacuated. 5 years later, the levels of gas had disappeared enough for residents to be allowed back, but with a strict stipulation. They had to carry gas masks at all times, ready to be worn at a moment's notice, and they still do, as does everybody that dares to visit. So technically you can visit this place if you want, but you have to be wearing a gas mask to enter, and it is not recommended.
At number 10 spot, we have the Krasu. Can't lie, when I first looked at this creature, I didn't know what to think. The Krasu is found and talked about all over Southeast Asia, including Thailand. It appears as a beautiful young woman, except it's missing a significant amount of body parts. The Krasu is only made up of a head with her internal organs hanging down from her neck. So as you would imagine, probably the most terrifying thing to see in real life. In Thailand legend, it said a Khmer princess became a Krasu after she was executed by burning, all because she tried to marry a person of lower status. So before the execution, the princess hired a sorceress to cast a spell on her, except the fire had already burned her entire body except for her head, which is why the Krasu appears the way it does. The spell was so powerful, however, it gave her new life, except only in this terrifying form. Now the Krasu flies around with a never-ending thirst for blood to drink and raw flesh to devour. So for the first time ever, avoid this beautiful woman. At number 9 spot, we have Tawi Watana deserted house. This is a supposed cursed house where everyone who entered the house would be met with a terrible fate. In the Thailand district of Bangkok, rumor has it that in 2015, a group of early teenagers entered the home. They were just out partying, so they entered the home high on alcohol and other narcotics. The reason they entered the house was because locals had already claimed that the house was haunted, so the boys decided to go check on it for themselves. This ended up being a very terrible decision later on. It said that whoever entered the house will have one of the home's spirits attached to them forever. It wasn't until 3 months after when 2 of the boys were fatally wounded in a motorcycle accident. Then a year later, a 3rd boy was caught also in a fatal accident. Then in the next year, 2 more of the boys lost their lives in a house fire. The odd thing about all these deaths was that the witnesses claimed that they saw a woman in white sitting on the backs of the motorcycles before their fatal accidents and before the house fire. Witnesses also claimed to see a woman in white entering the house before it burned down. Number 8 spot, we have the Jar Shuam Ashram. At the Ashram Shuan inside Thailand, there are literally hundreds of these statues scattered all around the property. These elaborate statues were created by one single shaman. This was no regular shaman, however. This shaman specialized in the dark arts and sorcery. So when he was alive, he performed rituals in which human remains such as ash, bone, hair, and skin would be mixed in with the concrete and be used to make these statues. After the shaman passed away, the ashram was left abandoned and the statues were left to be consumed by the forest around it. Locals avoid going to this ashram after dark because this is when the most activity happens with these statues. Some claim to hear the statues talk to one another while others see them fully move around. Regardless, seeing these statues that are just mixed in with human remains would be a terrifying thought, not only to see but just to think about. At number 7, we have the Courtesan Graveyard. In the western region of Thailand lies this infamous graveyard. The name I mentioned is not the actual name of the place, but after I mention some points, you'll understand why I changed it. Throughout the years, there's been numerous stories that this building was used as a brothel. Tragically, the women who were hired here were basically forced into adult work, and on top of that, they lived in these tiny rooms and were forced to take part with dozens of men. This is just a horrible thought beyond imagination. If the women said no or disobeyed, they were assaulted and left malnourished. So this is why this place got its name, because inside are the countless bodies of women and babies who were tragically left to die. Nowadays, it remains deserted for good reason, but if you go near the area at night, many report hearing constant screams and cries for help that grow louder and louder. At number 6 spot, we have the disappearance of Jim Thompson. Jim Thompson was an American businessman who came to Thailand and helped revitalize the Thai silk industry in the 1950s and 60s. So you can say he had a lot of power and influence in the area. He eventually built a house in Thailand filled with artifacts and various other Thailand charms. He was also loved by many locals and flourished in the Thai industry until one day in 1967, he was away in Cameron Highlands in Malaysia. Then, following an Eastern church service, Jim Thompson suddenly disappeared out of nowhere. This caused a 500-man grand-scale search for Jim, including the Thai army and Malaysian police force. After months of searching and the worldwide attention, Jim was declared dead in 1974 despite there being no trace or forensic evidence of him whatsoever. So did Jim just vanish out of thin air, or were there some greedy businessman looking to eradicate their competition? We'll never know. Right in the hump for our list, we have Wat Sahat. The Wat Sahat is a Buddhist temple located in Bangkok, Thailand. This temple was built all the way back in 1807 under King Rama I, so best believe it went through countless decades and countless leaders. At the time it was built, many people were told stories about the undead. Specifically in the temple, the undead were said to appear in the front of the temple's doors, resembling a thin-bodied ghost with a scary howling cry. This ghost is known as the Preta, and it was used in many religions to show someone suffering greater than humans at an extreme level of hunger and thirst. So I don't know if this ghost serves as a reminder for us to be grateful for our nourishment, or is it just another one of those ghosts that haunted this place? Who knows? At number 4 spot, we have the Bioki Sky Hotel. Located in what was once the tallest building in Bangkok, the Bioki Sky Hotel is one of the highest hotels in Southeast Asia. It towers over much of the city at 88 stories tall. However, in 2012, there was a tragic accident during construction of the tower whereby 3 workers plummeted to their deaths. Perhaps enraged by the unsafe equipment and working practices, the souls are now said to haunt the high-class hotel. Guests and staff members alike have reported a variety of strange happenings, including things mysteriously moving and creepy shadows. Even websites like TripAdvisor and Google Reviews also talk about many of the supernatural encounters they had in the hotel. These reviews suggest that the guests report poltergeist activity, which include having their items moved around the rooms, shadowy figures in the dark corners of the rooms, and having the feeling of being watched and not alone. I know it doesn't make sense financially, but I feel like they should just close down a hotel after there's been more than a few deaths occurring, because I swear every hotel is haunted nowadays. At number 3 spot, with the Bang Poo Shoe Hotel. There is a certain shoe factory that nobody dares to walk in to this day. In Samut Prakan lies this now abandoned shoe factory. Why is it abandoned? Well, because back in the day, the factory suffered a freak accident that led many people to their deaths and injuries of many more workers. Instead of shutting down the factory, factory, the greedy owner decided to keep it operational very soon after. Eventually, employees began to leave after reporting that they have encountered the angered spirits of their fellow workers. After many complaints were made about the factory, and when the workers started to desert the place completely, the owner decided to take his own life inside of the factory. To this day, the ghost stories that surround Bangpoo Shoe Factory, as I mentioned, have caused no one to step foot inside. Some locals say they occasionally get the whiff of newly burnt embers, shadowed with the screams of workers still trying to find their way out. At number 2 spot, we have Phi Phlong. Be cautious of who you see during the day, as they may morph into a ghost at night. Phi Phlong, a foul-smelling spirit, appears as a normal person during the day and as a ghost at night. The odd things it feasts on, such as frogs, give Phi Phlong its pungent odor. This creature is so feared that if locals even hear a frog close by, they will purposely rush inside of their homes in fear of bumping into the Phi Phlong. This stinky ghost is harmless until threatened, which means you can end up like a Phi Phlong if he attacks and you ingest his saliva. I mean, just by looking at this creature, there's nothing good about them, but I guess they don't randomly attack, which is kind of a good thing. Kind of. So for another weird thing these guys do is that they will throw banana stalk cut from the widow water shoulder poles over the roof of the victim's house. This will cause the family of the house to suffer bad luck and other tragedies in the following years. All the way at a number 1 spot with the Khao Lak. Khao Lak is a beautiful seaside town in Phang Nga province. In 2004, it was all but destroyed by a devastating tsunami. While many places in several countries suffered casualties and damage after the huge earthquake in the Indian Ocean, Khao Lak saw Thailand's greatest loss of life. It is estimated that at least 4,000 people perished on December 26, 2004. The resort has risen from the debris, with homes, hotels, and businesses gradually being rebuilt and repaired. Many Thai people believe that the coastal area is haunted by the tsunami's victims, and ghosts have reported strange occurrences in many of the local hotels. At number 10 spot, we have the White Lady of Balit Drive. Every country has their own version of the White Lady ghost, and the Philippines is no exception to that. The country started to dread and avoid Balit Drive since the 1950s, when stories about a white lady floating around its streets started to spread around the area. The story goes that a white lady is a student of the University of the Philippines. The woman was the victim to a horrific crime committed by a taxi driver who picked her up, which caused her to pass away. Now, it's said that the ghost of the lady haunts that very street, and its preferred victims are cab drivers. Her ghost dresses up in a white gown, dressed with long hair covering her face like a veil. Drivers who drive on Balit Drive would often drive not knowing that the white lady was silently sitting in their back seat. The only way they find out about this is if they look in their rearview mirror, which they will find the lady in white staring back right at them. This is said to be the reason for all of the accidents on that street, so would you take your chances, or would you just take the longer detour?
Now at number 9, the Romblon Triangle. If the North Atlantic has the so-called Bermuda Triangle, the Philippines also has something very similar, and it's called the Romblon Triangle, which is located in the Sibuyan Sea with its 3 corners at Mindoro, Panay, and Masbate, in the province of Romblon. The triangle covers a very small area, but due to the countless marine disasters in this area, people started talking about the Philippines' version of the Devil's Triangle. Meanwhile, the Philippine Coast Guard insists that the shipwrecks in the Romblon Triangle are due to the bad weather and technical failure, and nothing mystical. But with that many issues happening within that area, they won't be able to keep calling it bad weather for much longer. Unless it is actually bad weather, but I guess we won't know.
At number 8 spot, we have the My Way Curse. The My Way Curse, or might I say the My Way Killings, is a social phenomenon in my home country, the Philippines. The Philippines has all these type of weird, creepy stories, but I swear it was just a way for our parents to keep us obedient. The curse is linked to the song My Way by Frank Sinatra. Oddly enough, since 2002, there have been unusually high numbers of death linked to this song, especially when people are singing it during a karaoke performance. I mean, this seems like a pretty strange coincidence, but it has been reported on news organizations all around the world, including the renowned New York Times. Due to the negative attention this phenomenon received, bars in the Philippines were completely compelled to totally remove it from their karaoke players. This song is still forbidden in many pubs today, and you risk being ejected from the bar altogether if you attempt to play it.
Number 7, flying coffin. It's normal to see a coffin, though it typically gives us the creeps and goosebumps. But seeing a flying coffin in the middle of the road at night? Well, that's a different thing. Filipinos suggest that the flying coffin is one of the most popular horror stories shared with people. This horror story was even featured in a Halloween special of a TV show. The story is about a man walking in the middle of the night, and he sees a flying or floating coffin in the middle of the road, and it then started to quickly fly towards him and almost hit him in the head when all of a sudden it disappeared. This left him horrified, and the story is still known nowadays, especially during Halloween. This one could be true, but it also could maybe just be a campfire story.
At a number 6 spot, we have the Bao Bao. The Bao Bao, otherwise known as the grave robber, is rightfully named that. It's a terrifying humanoid that is known to steal corpses from funerals or a grave to consume them later on. Stories say that the Bao Bao is an undead creature with claws that can rip through flesh, along with razor-sharp teeth and a long tongue to effectively consume humans. It uses its long tongue to lick the flesh and suck out the blood of its victims. It's said that once the Bao Bao finishes eating a corpse, it leaves the trunk of a banana tree in the coffin to create the illusion of a stolen corpse. He is often regarded as an aswang as well. For all you non-Filipinos, aswangs are these creatures that haunted all points of our lives. They're basically these humanoids who separate their lower half of the body in order to fly around and attack unsuspecting babies. Man, the monsters in the Philippines are very creative.
Halfway at number 5, the headless priest. It said that the student was studying late at night at a school library and heard the sound of chains being dragged. When she checked who was making the noise, she found a priest, a headless priest. The priests played a vital role in Philippine history. They were the ones who led the church, and they were also the ones who taught the students in class during the Spanish era. As their name suggests, these clergymen hang out in universities, graveyards, churches, and other places that feel spooky. They sometimes bring their heads with them and seem to be looking for them when they don't. As for their heads, people said that they're either Filipino revolutionaries during the revolution or Japanese soldiers during World War II, cut off the heads of these priests. Other stories about biblical figures whose lives were taken, like St. John the Baptist, have also helped spread urban legends about priests.
All the way at a number 4 spot, we have the Clark Air Base Hospital. This is one of the few places deemed to be haunted, not just in the Philippines, but in the whole world by the Ghost Hunters International. Season 1, episode 20, named Unknown Soldiers, if you guys want to check it out. The hospital was used during World War II and the Vietnam War. It served as an asylum to the wounded and the dying American soldiers. This is why many people around the world claim it is the most haunted place in the Philippines. It's said that the traumas and countless deaths from those conflicts have left their mark on the spirit presence in the hospital. The place is currently abandoned, which gives it this more supernatural look to it, but it's said that if you visit the hospital and sleep within 8 hours after the visit, you experience extreme nightmares and intense lucid dreaming for about a week.
Now at number 3, Diplomat Hotel. The Diplomat Hotel is one of the go-to places for ghost hunters from different parts of the world. In fact, this hotel was featured in documentaries from different countries because of its dark history. The Diplomat Hotel is believed to be built during the early 1900s. This was built to become a vacation house for the Spaniards, priests, and nuns. This hotel is home to many happy and beautiful memories, but all of these changed during World War II. According to the stories, when the Japanese came, they gathered all the people in the hotel, separated them into different rooms, and took all of their lives. The people in the hotel were shot, beheaded, and stabbed. The worst part is the center of the hotel, where the fountain is located in the same place where the children were gathered and their lives were unfortunately taken. After World War II, the vacation house was converted into a hotel, but another tragic incident happened. A fire started in the hotel, and many guests who were staying there unfortunately passed away, which is another reason for the hotel to be haunted. The people working and visiting the hotel have experienced many scary encounters. Most of the people who visited the hotel have almost the same heavy feeling as many people are looking at them.
At a number 2 spot, we have the Malacanang Palace. This extravagant building was used for the official residence and workplace for the President of the Philippines. I covered a video on the White House, and I can confirm nothing good comes from government buildings. Literally nothing. This building is located in the Old Manila district of San Miguel, and this building was built all the way back in 1705, so it has a lot of history, including some dark moments. It used to be the home of every nationality that colonized us, from the Spanish leaders to the Japanese leaders. All sorts of ghostly apparitions are said to reside in the area, such as those of soldiers and children.
Now coming in at number 1, San Juanico Bridge. When Typhoon Yolanda hit the country and almost erased vast areas in Leyte and Tacloban, the over 40 years old San Juanico Bridge remains strong and steady. Impressive, right? Well, what could be the secret to its strength? Legend says that the longevity and strength of the San Juanico Bridge joining the two islands is due to the countless children sacrificed during its construction. Former First Lady Imelda Marcos had allegedly conspired the kidnapping of street kids or random babies from Leyte and Samar, and had offered them in a demonic ritual, mixing their blood with the concrete. At the time, Imelda headed the construction of the bridge, and reportedly performed the sacrifice upon a fortune teller who said children's blood was needed for the project's completion. Bodies of the sacrificed children were then thrown down the bridge. So whenever there are haunting incidences on the bridge, people will remember the story about the unknown children sacrificed here.
Coming in at number 10, we have the Cursed Poem, or Tamino's Hell. Published by Japanese poet Seijo Yasu, it's said that one of his poems, named Tamino's Hell, is cursed and could kill or haunt people if read out loud. So just not to die, I'll be playing it safe and I'll just show you the poem rather than reading it. Yeah. In 1974, Japanese filmmaker Terayama Suji directed a movie based on Tamino's Hell. He ended up passing away in 1983. This is where people first believed the movie was cursed, since the poem was used and read in the movie. As time went by, people began forgetting about the incident. But then in 2004, one Japanese writer published a book based on the poem, saying, "If you by chance happen to read this poem out loud, after you will suffer from a terrible fate which cannot be escaped." It said that even hearing someone say the poem out loud could lead your life into disaster or even death. So let's read it out loud. I'm just kidding. Everyone relax. Nowadays this poem is feared internationally, but for those who remain skeptical, come on, give it a read. At number 9, we have Hitori Kakarambo, solo hide and seek. The name directly translates to one man hide and seek. And as for the name suggests, it's a game where one person plays hide and seek. The instructions are thorough, so bear with me. Here's what you need to play. A stuffed toy with arms and legs, a red thread and a needle, rice, nail clippers, a box cutter, and a cup of salt water. The process is kind of complicated, so bear with me. To start, make sure you're home alone. Cut open the toy and take out the stuffings, replacing with rice and fingernail clippings. Sew it back with some red thread. Give the toy a name and be sure it's not your own. Then go find yourself a hiding place like a closet and place your saltwater cup in there. After that, go to the bathroom and fill your tub with just enough water to submerge the doll. Now you just have to wait until 3 a.m. When the time hits, go to the bathroom, look at the toy and say, "You're it." Count to 10 and then go back to the bathroom, pick up the toy and say, "I found you," 3 times. Easy, right? As you're in the bathroom, stab the toy and put it back in the water. Tell the stuffed animal, "You'll be it." Now it's your turn to hide where you left a glass of salt water. At this point of the game is where things get a bit creepier. People report hearing voices, footsteps, and the TV may turn on and off. Wait a bit until it's complete silence again. Take a sip of the water and hold it in your mouth and bring the cup with you as you look around for the toy. At this point, the toy is no longer in the bathroom, so you need to search the whole house for it. Do not leave the house, do not turn off the lights, and keep everything locked, and be sure to finish the game under 2 hours or the spirit will become too powerful to stop. When you finally find the toy, spit the water out, pour the rest of the cup on the animal, then say, "I won," 3 times. Finally, be sure to burn the toy within 1 to 2 days. I don't know what would compel someone to play hide and seek alone, but there are the instructions. Sealing our number 8 spot, we have Gasha Dokuru. The Gasha Dokuru, or giant starving skeleton, is a rageful, mythical Japanese yokai that is said to be 15 times the size of a normal human, which could be around 90 feet tall. Shaq? This entity is born where there's a large amount of human bodies, whether it be a mass grave or a battlefield. This is where these spirits become angry due to the fact that they can't get proper burials. This usually happens from events such as a war, a famine, or plagues. Then the bones of these angry spirits form together, creating this one large skeleton. Despite their large stature, they still manage to sneak up on humans. They crush them in their hands and bite off their head to drink their blood. This creature will definitely give Attack on Titans a run for their money. The scary thing is, they don't even need to kill people nor drink their blood. They simply just enjoy doing it. They usually roam around midnight using the darkness as their cover. The only way you would know one is near you is from the sounds of bones rattling or strange ringing. Since Japan has less wars and plagues, these creatures have not been spotted. But when it does, I wonder how much Gasha Dokuru will rise. Showing that even our bathroom stalls aren't safe, at number 7 we have Akamanto. Think twice before using certain bathrooms in Japan, as you might run into Akamanto. Akamanto is a spirit in Japan that is said to appear to people in bathroom stalls, usually the last stall of all stalls. And definitely be sure you have toilet paper in your stall, because that's how Akamanto gets his cue to enter. He's described as wearing a long red cloak with a mask to cover his face. He'll give you a choice between red and blue paper, and your answer will decide your fate. If you choose a red paper, he will cut your throat, causing all of your clothes to turn into a bright crimson color. However, the other option is not any better. If you choose the blue paper, he will strangle you, making your face turn blue. So you basically have 0 chance, because if you try to pick another color that he doesn't offer, he will kidnap you and bring you to his lair where it's unknown what he will do to you. So is there any way to make it out alive? Well, the best way to answer Akamanto is to simply say, "I do not need paper," and he will leave you alone. Hey, I know you'll be stuck with no toilet paper, but at least you won't die. At least that's a good trade. The number 6 spot, we have Teke Teke. Teke Teke is a story of a woman named Kashima Raiku who lived in the city of Hokkaido, Japan. One night as she was waiting on the Meishin Expressway, a group of men decided to beat her up and leave her on the floor, barely conscious. With her little strength, Raiku would frantically call out for help. But since it was so late at the night, there was nobody around. After coming to the realization that no one was going to help, she began crawling her way back home. As she was crawling, she noticed that she was on a train track and got struck by an oncoming train. The train ended up severing her body in half. Legend says that she is still crawling with only half of her body while making the sounds of teke teke. Right in the hump of our list, we have the Kisaragi station. In 2004, a 2chan user named Hasumi posted on a thread asking for help because she got on the wrong train at the Shin Hamamatsu station. This was rather strange because she usually caught the same train after work, and trains in this station only go in one direction. She started getting anxious because she remembered the stops only being a few minutes between each station. But on this train, they were much longer. They even went through a tunnel, but her usual line didn't go through any sort of tunnel. She walked to the front of the car to ask the conductor for help, but the curtain was closed and no one answered. She then knocked on the door, but that's when the train suddenly stopped at Kisaragi station. As she left the train, she was filled with anxiety and fear. But as she tried to go back, the train's door shut on her. She told the other users on the discussion board of the stations, but they had all said that there was no such station located in Japan. She decided to exit the station and walk back along the tracks, even back through the tunnel she had gone under before. She reported hearing strange sounds like drums in the distance and a voice telling her that walking on the tracks is dangerous. As she grew more afraid, she turned back to see an old man with one leg, which then slowly disappeared right after. When she finally got out of the tunnel, a man came up offering for help and to drive her to the nearest station. This is when she posted on the thread for the last time, saying that the man was muttering to himself, then her phone died. She was never heard on the thread again. Chilling at our number 4 spot, we have Peko-chan. Peko-chan is the mascot of the Milky Candies, but her story is more sour than sweet. The story goes that Peko-chan was actually based on a young girl who passed away during the 1940s. The legend goes that during World War II, there was a huge food shortage in Japan. Because of this, many people, including women and children, were starving to death. So Peko-chan's mother decided to cut a piece of her own arm off and offered it to Peko to eat. This is the moment Peko-chan discovered how tasty human flesh was. In fact, she had never tasted anything so good in her life. She couldn't resist with such a piece, so she decided to kill her mom and eat her whole body. Ever since, she's been constantly craving human meat, living the rest of her days as a cannibal. At our number 3 spot, we have the Kone Kone. The legend arose in Japan where sightings of a creature are reported in rice fields or in an open sea. This creature resembles a tall white mannequin made of fabric, almost like an inflatable tube, but deadlier. Other than that, no one knows exactly what it looks like because everyone who saw it either went crazy or has died. There's a story where one summer, 2 brothers went to visit their grandparents in the countryside. They were playing outside when they noticed a figure in the distance, wiggling in the wind. But when the wind stopped, the figure kept on wiggling. Curious, the older brother took binoculars to see the figure, but as he did, he stopped breathing and turned blue with sweat running down his whole body. The younger brother asked what he saw, and the older brother responded that it's better not to know. But the voice that came out was not the brother's. Later that day, the older brother was found laughing uncontrollably, wiggling in the fields. All the way at our number 2 spot, we have Honeona. In Japanese mythology, the Honeona, or the Bone Woman, is a spirit whose face, hands, and neck appear to be that of a young, attractive female. However, the rest of her body bears no flesh at all. It's said that she uses her beauty to seduce unsuspecting men, where she would lure them into the dark and isolated areas. Because when they're alone, she reveals her true form and sucks her life force energy, leaving them as a pile of dust. In other accounts, the Honeona are said to be the spirits of a young woman who had died, but cannot move on from their past lovers. To their loved ones, they appear normal, but for everyone else, they appear as the Bone Woman. Taking our number 1 spot in our list, we have the Okiku doll. Let me start this off by saying that this haunted doll is worse than Chucky. This story starts in 1918 Japan. Older brother Aikaichi Suzuki bought a doll for his 2-year-old sister Okiku. The doll had a black bob cut and a traditional kimono. His sister loved the doll so much that she even named it after her own name. These two would become attached together like no other. But in the following year, Okiku became gravely ill and ended up passing away. To commemorate her, her family put up her favorite doll on her memorial shrine. Everything seemed fine until after a few days, they would begin to notice something very strange. The doll's hair seemed to be actively growing, and every time it was cut, it would keep on growing until it reached just above the knees, which happened to be the same place where Okiku's hair stopped.